He,
So I asked him if he would be more than up today to talk a little bit about conservation and that you received so much, that would be a good time to, have, come up. So thank you very much, Tyler. Oh. Thank you.
Appreciate it, and I'm glad to be here. I've done a couple of these throughout my career here. I always enjoy getting to talk to those folks and rub elbows. So I told Adrian before this, I said, I don't have any sort of cool presentation or slideshows or anything, but I love answering conservation questions, whether it be related to land management, gear management on the property, or specific to regulations, or hey, I know a guy that did this, or this. So I always enjoy those types of things. So feel free at any point, place something chump the whole time. I enjoy it. But I thought I'd just bring up a few things. As we were talking, it's getting into our busy time of year for conservation maintenance. Deer season it's already started technically. We're in archery season right now. This upcoming weekend, when we're in the low to mid 80s, we're gonna have our early antler season, so that should be not hunting. 85 degrees trying to drag a deer out. I don't suspect we're gonna have a lot of involvement this weekend, but it's our early antler season started last year. So it's a 3-day weekend in October that we allow the harvest of antlers deer, and that's just a tool that we can use as some population management, more or less, to try to get some of those doe numbers down throughout the state. Again, I think it's very, very heavily dependent on the weather and the forecast, and I don't think we're going to get a lot of participation with it being 80-some degrees. So we got that coming up. Then once November hits, we have early youth season. It's always one of my favorite. My oldest was 11, about to be 12, and so we got to participate in that the last 4 or 5 years. It's really fun to get the kids out. You know, someone that hasn't ever hunted before, and that's something you enjoy. I encourage you to get them out. It's really one of the more fulfilling things that you can do is to introduce a kid to the outdoors. So that's coming up the first part of November, and then of course firearms youth season, and alternative method season, CWD season. We'll have deer season until January. So you can pick one, pick a gun, pick a bow, whatever you want to shoot. We've got open deer season from now until January 15th. There's ample opportunity. Couple of things this year specific to our area, and again, it started last year, is we increased the number of antlerless permits that you can fill, and this goes for a lot of counties throughout the state, but in Camden County, you can fill up to 4 antlerless permits per person, and that's an increase from 2 over the last number of years, so we doubled that number. And again, it's just a tool that folks can use to manage the populations on their property, manage the populations in the community. If you're a landowner, you can get no cost landowner permits if you meet certain requirements of acreage size. So you can use those no cost landowner permits that you receive in addition to, if you want to purchase another 4 antlerless permits, they're like $9 a piece, I think. You can use both sets of those permits. It's not just 4 total if you're a landowner, it's your landowner permit plus 4 required. So we're really trying to put the landowners in charge of being able to manage their herds and help with population numbers on that property. So that's kind of one of the tools we're trying out. Again, last year we bumped it up to 4. We can say this year.
So statewide, what's the estimated year?
It's over 1 million. Yeah, we typically harvest between 200,000 and 250,000 a year, and it's the total population as well. I think it's over 1 million on where she's been.
Since they have, that's in my backyard.
Yeah.
Do they have any special like bow hunting season over
Yeah, so,
Lake Garden.
yeah, so Hamilton, Osage Beach, and Four Seasons all have what they call it a managed archery hunt. So basically all it is that it has to fall in line with all of our regulations in our season, so that they do it during our open season, but then they put extra restrictions on it. Obviously, since it is in city limits, most cities have an ordinance that says you can't discharge a weapon inside city limits, so bow and crossbow is still considered a weapon, it's not a gun, but it's still a weapon. So during the open archery seasons for these managed hunts, they will allow folks to hunt if they meet certain acreage requirements, so they bring with permission. Most of them have a registration process, so they know where you're hunting, what they're driving, if they're called in the city hall, things like that. One of the unique things about out on HH is there is a ton of POA ground. So it's not really owned by anybody. So what they do is they do a draw, kind of like lottery. They'll have a preseason meeting if you want to hunt. During that archery management, they'll have a preseason meeting, put your name in a bucket, and draw a name for a certain spot. So you get to hunt on the POA property, even if you don't own property and don't hunt out there. Anyone can go out there and apply for this and get the hunt out there. It's a great tool for management. The issue with hunting nowadays, in my opinion, or at least a lot of hunting, is TV is real thin. So everyone thinks they need to go out and kill a big buck, and they need to know what it scores before they kill it. You know, it's gonna meet the standards of the eye of hunting industry. Well, that's not good for deer man. You know, we try to work with municipalities like that and try to encourage them to put regulations in place that would help more with our population stuff. Like they make these folks kill 3 does before they can farm some buck. That would really help with the population stuff. On the flip side of that, you don't get as much buy-in from people. They're putting more rules on them. So it's kind of a give and take. But yeah, that's the specific situation I want to change. Then we also, it's been an ongoing project for 5 or 6 years now. The village of Four Seasons and their HOA/POA, they pay the USDA to come in and sharpshoot deer. It's a very expensive endeavor. We help out with it, so we issue the permit through our agency, and then they actually hire the USDA agents guys to come in, and all they do is they bait deer for a couple of weeks, and then they'll set some ground blinds up to hunt in the evening times, and then after dark, they will drive around the roads on and HH Four Seasons with thermal scopes, night vision, suppressed rifles, and shoot deer on the trail. We escort them to do that, which is wow. Mind about do that, right? It's everything that I was taught and everything I believe in.
What's the waiting list for that job?
Promise if it was up to the guy that runs it for USDA, he would go for the party. They don't like doing it. It's a ton of work. It's a ton of liability. It's a ton of prep and planning. I mean, you just imagine anywhere, any road you go down, once you get past the golf course, and like Little Rizzo's, that's where it starts. So anywhere past that, imagine turning down some of those roads in the middle of the night and just shoot deer out of people's yards. It's what, and they don't just shoot out of random yards. I should clarify that. But landowners will say, yeah, we have way too many deer, shoot them in our yard. And then back to that POA ground, there's a lot of shooting on there. They've been very effective at stabilizing the population, but it's not really reducing the population. So I don't know how far or how long they're going to do it, how financially sustainable it is. It is, when I say expensive, over the past 5 or 6 years, we harvest anywhere between 100 and 150 a year. And it's about $20,000 every year.
Other than hunting, what is your office?
So the conservation department is, we're mandated to manage the fish forest and wildlife resources in those areas. So not only do we set hunting and fishing regulations, but we also manage all the out-of-state parks with the conservation areas throughout the state. We set the rules for them. We manage the land as far as habitat for wildlife, timber cutting, select cutting for moving invasive species versus desired species. We have private lands folks that go out and work with private landowners if they want habitat help on their property. We can set them up with somebody that has the expertise on how to do that thing or do those things. We've got fisheries biologists, you know, for big reservoirs and rivers. They work specifically in those areas to manage the fish populations, different species, things like that. We've got IT guys, we've got construction guys, we've got bulldozer operators, especially in this area. The Camden, Laclede, Dallas County corner is one of the hottest spots in the state, if not the hottest spot for wildfires. And it's, I always try to explain it to you, but it's in its blood. They just drive around and set road fires in the spring and just burn stuff off. So we've got crews that specifically deal with that stuff. But most of it is just the management of the resources. And part of that management is setting the regulations.
So what are the biggest problems you deal with?
Me personally?
Yeah, you got all this, you got gear, you're ready to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I guess I should mention my portion of the department.
Yeah.
We're the law enforcement branch
Yeah.
of the department, so we enforce the regulations. The worst thing that I deal with is the people. The best thing that I deal with is the people. You know, it just depends on who you run into and what their need is for that day. You know, and it's an ever-changing world. That's we're all aware. I started back in 2011. So I've been here 13 years. I've been in Canton County the whole time. From Lebanon originally, so I'm pretty close to home, but not too close to the end of home. So it's, you know, we went through the St. Louis Michael Brown stuff, and then obviously George Floyd and all the things that just keep compounding, and then new generations have different thoughts on what law enforcement should and shouldn't be and shouldn't do, and then you kind of work into the PETA stuff and for lack of a better word, the folks, the tree huggers and things like that, that they don't want any sort of hunting or fishing or anything. They just want it to be and exist. And you know, obviously we feel that that's not the right way to handle it. You've got to manage some resources. So probably the most challenging thing specifically that I deal with is we have a lot of homeless living on the public lands at this point. And it, you know, it's unfortunate that they're in this situation, but we also have to look at the whole picture. And when they start creating issues by using these public lands long term and not using them properly, we're starting to affect opportunities that other people have. So we kind of have to balance that and manage that. And it's a fine line. Some of our administration wants to allow more camping opportunities. And as specifically like walk-in camping, so we have designated campsites now. Some folks would like it to be this conservation area, and you can imagine the very bad folks, you know, they're creating issues designated campsites. So imagine if they could just walk out into the middle of 6,000 acres. And,
You know, amazing me that walk in with all the gears and then when you walk out, you can't get there and stuff.
no, they never have all, you know. So those are kind of some unique challenges that we have, and then administration, obviously.
Just on share the harvest program, like you were talking about them shooting here the HOA, they donate those.
Yeah, for that specifically, for that thing right there, all those deer get transported out to A&K processing in Richland, and they've got a deal worked out with Hope House in Lake Ozark. So the POA pays for part of the processing, and then Hope House covers the rest of the processing, and then those deer go to the Hope House. They use it for food pantry driving here. So you can imagine, you know, what they could go and buy burger for versus what they could process the deer for. It's very beneficial for their food pantry. And then share the harvest, again, K processing in Richmond. That is our only share the harvest processor in that county. We used to have 3, it used to be K, Butcher Shop, and Tom's. Excuse me. And our agency made it difficult with CWD regulations to make farm beer processors. And they made it even harder on share the harvest beer processors. So a lot of them opted out just because of the rules and right. We're gonna be required and some of the steps that we're gonna be required for them to process those beer. So we kind of showed ourselves a little bit. But share the harvest, basically, a hunter can come in, they can shoot deer, take it to the processor out of K&K. K&K has been given before the mission starts. They've got an allocated number of deer that the Conservation Federation of Missouri is who pays for share the harvest. So they've got an allocated number that they can process throughout the whole season. Once they hit that number, then it's going to start coming out of their pocket versus being paid. So I think it's like 90 or $100 is what the Conservation Federation pays per year. So a lot of the processors charge about $125 to process the deer. That includes like cutting and packaging and all that stuff. For share the harvest, if they're getting $100, that's actually a pretty good deal for them because they're just throwing it all in the ground. It's all in the burger meat. We provide the bags for it, so they're not out any kind of supplies or anything. So they're still making money on it, even though they're not getting $125 per year. And then at the end of the season, once all that meat is ready, or even partially through the season, if they're freezer full and they need space, we'll go out and pick up that meat and then distribute it to the pantry area. You do have to, so food pantries have to ask to be part of the program to be able to distribute that meat, but we've got several Community for Christ in Sunrise Beach, share the harvest on Route 7, one out of Assembly of God Ranch, and then the main house, obviously, from Hampton County. That's a great program.
So if a landowner wants to shoot 4 does, but doesn't want to eat 4 does, they can kill them legally, tag them, and take them there.
Yes.
That goes to.
Absolutely. And then if we get into a situation where they say, well, we've already filled all our tags for share harvest, and we're not going to buy, we're not going to take it in with this. I talked to them. We have a very good, you have to have a good relationship with those folks. And I have a very good relationship with Kim and Keith out there. And they know that if a situation like that arises, call me and we'll find homes for the year. It may not be processed, but I'll find somebody that they can cut up themselves. That's, we've started to do more of that because of allowing more permits. There's a gentleman out in Pine Springs who's got a huge farm. They wanted to shoot like 20 does last year. So that's a lot, but we met him a couple different times in the middle of the night. They shoot them and get them gutted, drug out, and throw Pine Springs back to Hampton. We pick up 6 or 8 deer from him, and next day we start driving around, don't need them where they need to go. So
several years ago with the reintroduction of elk count, that pretty cheap. So what's the conservation's thoughts about the spread of the elk? How far do they expect them to herd out?
yeah, so it's my understanding, I'm not an elk biologist, but it's my understanding that basically we're gonna have a few flyers that obviously expand farther than what we thought they would. But for the most part, that you're not familiar with the area, that Peck Ranch conservation area down there in Shannon Carter counties, is just a massive tract of public land, tens of thousands of acres. And that's why they were specifically introduced into that part of the state. So the thought was that although they may spread a little bit throughout the state, and we've even had some up in Boone County or in Columbia the last couple of years that ended up getting shot, caught on game camera, and we really have no explanation as to where they came from. We don't know if it's from down south or if they came in from a western state somewhere and just across the state lines. Didn't tell us or. Yeah, so, yeah, we do expect some, distribution, but most of those are gonna be young males, just spreading their wings and trying to sow their oats, basically. Yeah, but for the most part, they're gonna stay within that Peck Ranch area, those southern Missouri counties.
And the second thing that I wrote down, so.
Okay.
Black bear population in the state of Missouri supposedly eradicated. Evidently, never did, totally disappeared now.
Yeah,
What about the black bear population?
so our black bear management has been a pretty good success story in my opinion. Really, like you said, we really had no idea where we stood on it. That project started probably 15 years ago or so, our black bear management project. To just really kind of see where we were at. We knew that we had some bears, but for the most part, they were very few and far between. So we started doing samples like hair snare studies where the biologists would go out in specific locations and set up basically fences to get hair samples, and then we started building the DNA profile for different hair samples and kind of putting it all together. But I don't remember the exact number. I think we're over 1,000 bears is what they've estimated at this point. Don't quote me on that. A very stable population. We haven't quite reached, in my opinion, the point in the population where we're having to control them like deer, as far as we gotta let people just buy over the counter tags to keep this thing in check. We're not there yet. So the bear tags, if you're not familiar, you have to put in an application for a permit, and then if you get drawn, it's still based on a quota system, so we only allow a certain number in different parts of the state. We have very many zones 1, 2, and 3. Camden County is in zone 3. We are the biggest zone in the state, and as of this year, have still yet to harvest a bear in the entire zone. So that just kind of tells you their population density in this part of the state. That is not to say we don't have bears here, because I had one in my yard this summer.
When do you conservation there? So they came to your house.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was walking up to getting in the truck to go move to church. And I looked up, and I thought it was my chocolate lab. How about chicken? I was like, how in the world did she get out? No, she tell you something about my chocolate lab. She hasn't done it in a number of years, and it showed. But I thought it was my lab, and I looked up and bears in the yard. I looked at it, turned around, and walked off. But yeah, so we do have an increasing number, especially around the lake area. I think last year, I didn't have as many calls this year, but last year, phones were very busy with bear sightings. And I think based on when I was getting the phone calls, where they were at, and just the timing of all of it, I think we had 6 bears in my county last season. So that's not to say they all live here, but I would say a good number of those bears do live here. So what they do, wow. Oh, their range is huge. So we had one out here off of D Road last summer. And that same bear was spotted in Eldridge that season. So, wow. Not Eldridge, Sleeper. So, yeah, it's a long ways. It's a huge range. And again, a lot of that is young males looking around, seeing if they can find a mate. I don't believe we've ever, at least since I've been here, we haven't confirmed those in the county. But we had confirmed sows. I know that. We had 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago, we had a bear that was tagged in a collar. And she was a problem bear. On the end of the tree for days on end. And it was an issue, but because we had her collar, we knew that at the time, when she came out from Max Street, she was the most northern female bear common. Kind of give you an idea. They're not not a northern Missouri kind of creature, but we are on the end of their range.
Well, they already are on that.
Yeah,
So it's very different group results.
yeah. We were discussing that before we started here, so. Again, I've been here 13 years, I get calls every year. About mountain lion sightings to report them. I've never confirmed them. So. It's not to say that folks haven't seen it. I can't stand there and say, you're wrong, let it be wrong with me. What I can say is we've never confirmed, so. For mountain lion sightings and bear sightings, in Missouri, we have that confirmation. Is tracks, scat, hair samples, or a picture. And I've never had any of those pan out. In all reports, I've probably watched in here, I probably have over 50 reports, and it's never.
You see a lot of places that go, it's the way.
Yeah.
I actually did see one of micro sales one day, I believe,
Yeah.
if it approves, but if it wasn't mountain lion, it was the biggest thing, bobcat. But
Yeah.
and it had a long tail, so I'm not sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Bobcat.
I got a back home this week, said I got a. I'm not flying on camera. Cameras are the easiest way to put out this thing, that's a picture. So, I think a lot of it is just misinformation and you get some of these cameras blurry and best and, yeah. Do we have them? Probably. We have many within the bears, definitely not.
With all the deer population, and some of your being sponsored, I can't help it.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
anyway,
I think 4 seasons would probably take 3 or 4 of them. If we give them.
the deer area since '79. And we have a bear about every 3 years, and he actually had tagged it,
Oh,
but I'll tag it. So he knew it was the same one for a decade.
Yeah.
And early in the morning, late in the evening, and he always right in saw it. He didn't have game cams back there, but you could hear the cougar or panther run on or whatever, and almost like scream, and you'd be when you're standing there and climb down. I mean, it would literally give you goosebumps.
Yeah, no, not making me feel.
Well. Especially if you shot one and you're waiting for it to, get down.
Yeah, so you make it say nothing.
You caught it. No,
It's like, okay, who's waiting to go? Can't go up.
and I never did see it, but you can sure, you
Yeah.
hear it every once in a while.
Yeah,
They were kind of the same thing, like your 1 year, but not here.
Yeah, and again, it'd be wrong of me to stand here and tell someone, no, you didn't see it, or no, we didn't. Fine, I know I did. But until we can prove it, unfortunately, we can't, or because it's confirmed side. So that's kind of how those things.
What's the most unusual animal that you go across, like maybe, somebody let out or, some transporting? Some that shouldn't be here.
You might have chip crazy too.
Oh, yeah. 3 weeks ago, I did a phone call. So. Well, if you guys follow Facebook, the last couple of years, we've had a capybara that gets out. Yeah, in the 4 seasons, they change area.
Did they ever get reunited the last time?
But people call us, and they're like, what is this? It's a capybara. Sure. I wouldn't. Somebody really likes that thing, according to Facebook. 2 years ago, I think, a porcupine. Sunrise Beach. Yeah. That was strange. And then probably the most strange, it's not wildlife, but shortly after I started, probably 2 years after I started, there was a traveling circus coming through overnight and flipped their semi up on North Highway 7 near Climax Springs. And the sheriff's office was like, hey, come help us. 1,200-pound lighters in the truck on the side and they were heading out.
was,
How about sketch, how about wolves, do we have actually?
yeah, we don't have a population, but we have had several since I've been on. Yeah, we've had a couple that have been harvested. And DNA testing has proved that they are wolves. People think it's a big coyote, will shoot it. They are, yeah. They're the same as mountain lions. We don't have a mountain lion season, they're protected. However, if it comes to you or your family or your livestock. You have to recognize it. But yeah, we don't have a population. I'd say wolves are more scarce than mountain lions, yeah, my estimation.
Yeah, I don't hear a lot about wolves. Everybody's got an outline.
Yeah, sure.
What about the feral pigs, are they this far yet?
So our feral hog thing, it's been a pretty unique story. We have had a few reports this far north. The closest that we've had to our area, Fort Leonard Wood, over in Pulaski and Lee County, and then over at Truman, around Truman, on the foreground over there. To my knowledge, they got most of that sounder rounded up, and this has been like maybe 2 years ago. They were after one over there at Truman. Other than that, they thought they had them all. So unfortunately for us, we don't have a population this far north. Most of that is in the Ozark and southeast part of the state. If you're not familiar with the feral hog situation, obviously they're terrible for landscape, they're terrible for farmers, they're terrible for landowners. We put a few regulation changes into place probably 4 years ago. We shut down all feral hog hunting on public land, and it includes state and federal property. So a lot of the southeast state is Oxford National Forest. So that upset a lot of hog hunters. And the reason it upset hog hunters is because they're the ones bringing hogs in and not around. And then from there, they would sell hunts to people who wanted to come and shoot hogs. So once we shut that down on the property, that really got into their wallet, their bottom dollar, because they would legally take clients out of the property and shoot hogs that they were releasing. Just to be able to hunt. So fortunately, since we shut that down, been pretty fortunate to keep a pretty good handle on the hog hunting situation down south. It's still an issue. There's still outlaws down there. That's it. Never experienced in southern Missouri or the Ozarks in Missouri. It's a different. Well, you said you're from Dept County. It's a different breed of folks down there. They have a different way of doing things, and they like their way.
And how faster?
Yeah.
It does not encounter rules or regulations.
You know, it's gotten a little bit better, but back in the day, I mean, you judges participating in these activities.
Well, yeah.
If they weren't participating, they definitely weren't receiving the charges. They were participating. So, yeah, it's quite a deal.
How's our turkey population?
Thankfully, that's my favorite thing, is chase monitors. And I would say, from my experience, I think we're rebounding. I think we're finally, we're not back to early 2000 by any means. That's when I grew up turkey hunting, and that was excellent turkey seasons throughout that stretch. I think we're getting back. We're not quite there yet, but we've had 3 good hatches over the last few years. Seen a lot of good young birds this year over the sun, a lot of poults. So I think we're gonna have another good spring next year. We should have a lot of 2-year-old birds next year, maybe some 3-year-olds from that first good hatch. We had a couple years ago, but I think we're getting better. Done a lot of studies on turkey population, specifically nesting success, and a lot of that occurred in northern Missouri. I'm not saying it, but it was astounding, the numbers, like, it's less than 50% survival rate, or it was less than 50% catch rate, but then, if I'm not mistaken, it was less than 50% survival rate there. 25% survival rate to get a turkey. Bunch of days. A lot of
of that is weather dependent and a lot of it is pressure. We just don't have, people don't trap anymore. China tanked the firm market years ago, it's never rebounded. So we don't have a lot of trappers, lost arm. We don't have a lot of small game hunters, hunters, running dogs, raccoons are a huge nest predator. We're really hard on their population, they'll create the nest and overnight, and it's gone. So you lose that whole bunch of eggs. Coyotes are connected to this. So when generations change and kind of the way kids are raised starts changing, you see that flexible wildlife. Kids are trying to play video games. So,
I take about 32 hours
you buy something, what to do on pillows? Shoot. Yeah. Shoot. Seriously, are you in city limits? Can you shoot them? Just outside. Yeah, so the easiest way to shoot them, if that's something you're comfortable with. The good thing about armadillos is they're not very smart animals. So you can get a live trap. You can get a live trap. Let's say you've got an edge or a border along the flower bed. Get a live trap, set it on one end, and then make like a V formation using your flower bed and a long board stood on its end. And they will just, their lines back. So they'll just bump off the flower bed and bump off the board and walk right to the gauge. It's really simple to travel. Yeah. It's a little more difficult if it's a wide open area that they're tearing up, but that's where it's going.
I went in an area in my backyard, my motion line was go out there with my foot in the ball, so you want to take that pressure.
Yeah.
Sure. The neighbors don't like it when the shotgun goes off.
Can you talk briefly, I don't know, on Wutung with deer, is that a big deal in this year? We see them, we would kind of close to the hill, we've got with all around us. And for the first time I saw, we were just talking about that as development. And that kind of alarmed, that's a pretty serious disease, they don't solve that, right?
Yeah, so blue tongue is one of those that fluctuates, kind of ebb and flow. Blue tongue is separate. Blue tongue's name is EHD, that's a lot of different than CWD, which is the big buzzword. It's two different things. CWD is real bad. Hemorrhagic disease is bad, but it's a natural occurring thing that just runs in cycles. So blue tongue is caused by biting midge fly that bite the deer when it's really dry summers, drought situations. They start congregating in these water holes that turn muddy. The midge fly lives in the mud, bites the deer, infects it. Normally within 48 to 72 hours. But it exhibits those symptoms: droopy head, tongue hanging out, frothy mouth. Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, a deer is affected with blue tongue, either in the body of water or within 50 yards of the body of water. So whether that's the pond or Lake the Ozarks, or river, they're going to water because that disease is in the deep inside. So what causes the pain is super high fever. Their vessels and arteries start pushing inside, so they go to water to try to down, and that's why they're running. But it's not. It's a naturally occurring cycle. Nothing to be worried about. This year we had 3 more reports than normal.
Okay.
But it's nothing that's spread year to year.
Questions? No, he needs to, we need to have like a part 2.
Yeah, that's
good. Thank you, Tyler.